I'm fantastic. Thank you, Angela. Thanks for asking. Excited to be here with you today.
Great. Well, just to let everyone know, welcome to Coach Mary, who is the Mind Coach. And Mary empowers people with mind mastery. She's also a clinical hypnotherapist, an NLP trainer, and a podcaster, and a very prominent coach in the Power Within network. So today we're going to talk about leadership with Mary, especially focusing on how leaders can successfully lead change with emotional intelligence. So we're going to jump straight in, Mary. Now, I've got a question for you, and we've talked about this a lot during our conversations, but some people don't believe that people can change. What's your views on that?
I agree with them. People can only change if they want to change, but you can't change people. So, change really comes from within. And I have many magic tools in my toolkit, my ginormous toolkit, but we can't change other people unless they want to be changed. And people are going to want to believe. And the clients that come to me are ones that believe they can and they want to. And then miracles can happen very easily and effortlessly.
Yeah. So why do you think then change can be so difficult for some people?
We're creatures of habit. We're human beings. We like things to be familiar, and we tend not to embrace the unfamiliar. One of my favorite quotes from P.T. Barnum is, "Comfort is the enemy of progress." And we'd like to stay in our comfort zone because we don't even know we're in our comfort zone most of the time. We're just carrying on doing as we do. And then when we come to do things like change, it's unfamiliar. It's like, if you're right-handed, it's like writing your address with your left hand rather than your right hand. It's a really difficult thing to do. It feels uncomfortable. It feels unfamiliar. Yeah. And as humans, we don't want to embrace that. Yeah. It's only through embracing the unfamiliar that we grow and learn and really empower ourselves for more things in the future.
Yeah. Okay. So when it comes to, I guess, an organization context, change can mean many things. It could mean a change in your team structure, perhaps a new manager's coming in, and it can go as big as a whole restructure or a merger of a company. So why is it so important for leaders to lead change with emotional intelligence?
That's a really, really powerful question, Angela. What is emotional intelligence? Let's talk about that first.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Emotional intelligence is giving yourself a flexibility of responses so the responses you give are eloquent, efficient, and effective. Now, I love a little equation, E plus R equals O. So events are going to happen. Exactly, you said all those different events of change can happen, whether it's micro or macro within an organizational setting. What we need to do, we can't change those events, they're going to happen. The only power or control we have as human beings, as leaders, is to change our response to the event so we get the outcome we want. So E plus R equals O. So emotional intelligence is really training, educating people to understand and give them a toolkit of different responses to the same event.
Okay, so what you're saying is very much that things are out of our control and it's very much how we react to that.
Right.
Yeah, okay then.
And how we react to it, Angela, is going to be based, whether as a human being, as a leader, our reaction to change is going to be built on what's happened to us with change in the past. What we tend to do as human beings is drive along looking at the rearview mirror rather than the big window screen in front of us, our window screen. So how I've been treated with change in my history, either in career or in my personal life, is going to have a massive impact how I deal with change as a leader within the organisation. If I've dealt with change and I've really embraced change as a child, growing up, teenager, first adulthood, I'm going to love change and the variety and the unfamiliar. But if change has always been quite traumatic, frustrating, really uncomfortable, then probably I'm not going to lead change as powerfully as I could too.
So how does one develop stronger emotional intelligence?
Well, I lean into the 1990 emotional intelligence model from Daniel Goleman, and there's 5 stages of that. And I think as a leader, all of the stages are absolutely paramount if you're leading yourself and others through change. And the first stage is self-awareness. Why do I do what I do? Who am I? What's my blind spot? What do I need to know about myself? How do I react to situations? Why do I react to situations like that, change or another? So the first stage is your own self-awareness. The next stage is your self-regulation. So how then do I regulate myself? If I'm feeling frustrated, angry, uncomfortable, what tools have I got? How can I respond differently so I get the outcome that I want? You've got your self-awareness, you've got your self-regulation. And then the third stage is your motivation. So what motivates you? And going back to Simon Sinek, but what's your why? What's your purpose? What's driving you to achieve what you want to achieve or not achieve what you're not achieving? The next stage, which is absolutely critical, is empathy. How empathetic am I? How good am I of having the flexibility to wonder what it's like to be one of my team going through that change? How do I put myself in their shoes? And then the fifth stage is social skills. And that's about relationships, networks, and pulling the right levers, making the right connections to make the changes, I'm going to say stick or sustainable.
Sustainable. Yeah. Okay.
So those 5 stages. So as a leader, I'm going to say how good are you at those 5 stages? And then how then do you lead your team through that too?
Yeah. Okay. So just remind me again, those 5 stages, the social,
First is self-awareness, self-regulation, motivation, empathy, and social skills.
Okay. So going back to what we discussed earlier about change being uncomfortable or difficult for many people, what are some of your top tips with managing change emotionally? So
one of our biggest human needs is the need for certainty. We need to like a bit of routine. We like a bit of things being the same. We get up, we do these things. The sun comes up, the sun goes down. We love consumer some certainty. And so if I was to put certainty on a continuum with uncertainty, which is about growing, about not knowing what's going to happen, about change, unfamiliarity, the more we can live with uncertainty, the easier our life is. So the tools are around people understanding that how to embrace uncertainty. And uncertainty could also be in another way of fear of loss of control, fear of failure, fear of the unknown. So the toolkit is really about getting people to understand what is their inner critic, what is their inner dialogue telling them about uncertainty.
It's almost like being comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Being comfortable with uncomfortable. And in fact, I would say be curious with uncertainty. You know, knowing that there's no such thing as failure, only feedback. It's just an experiment. And if you measured everything moment by moment, because actually the fact is our life as it unfolds moment by moment is just an experiment. We never had the past. We haven't had the future yet. So if we actually gave ourselves permission to try and embrace the change, there's no such thing as failure, only feedback. It's just an experiment. Then providing we have that as a narrative and a mindset, it can make a huge difference to us knowing and embracing feeling unfamiliar and uncomfortable.
Often it's harder to see how we are as a person versus how other people perceive us. Where do you see the biggest challenges with EQ that leaders face?
I think I saw a post recently and I think it's really, really lovely. And it was about the new KPIs, but it's actually called Keep People Interested.
Yeah, I saw that.
Keep people informed, keep people involved, and keep people inspired. And I think if we as a leader had those as our KPIs, I think that would absolutely force us to embrace emotional intelligence. Because if you think about it, keep people interested. If I want to keep my people interested, I need to know what motivates them. So again, going back to emotional intelligence, if I want to keep people informed, I've got to communicate with them. But the communication is what's my narrative, and then what's the story that I'm sharing with my people around this change. I need to keep people involved. How do we collaborate? How do we get people involved in the change so they feel more empowered and have more certainty about the change is going to happen? And then the inspired, for me, that's about the curiosity and the creativity. How do we get people curious about the change? How do we be creative about what this change could mean so they feel involved? So I think if any leader really wants those KPIs, the new KPIs around people, you can't not have emotional intelligence to lead that.
Yeah.
You'll get some results if you just do the process and just the process. But if you forget about the people, the process will never be as successful and it'll have more obstacles and more pain in delivering the changes. We get the people involved, we get them informed, we keep them interested and inspired, the change will happen more easily and more effortlessly. But the change starts with the leader and the narrative they have in their mind and the story or the metaphor they're then sharing with their people, painting that vision.
Fantastic KPIs.
Brilliant. Brilliant. I love them. I love them.
Okay, so let's talk about this workshop that you're planning on running then, Mary, this leading change with emotional intelligence. Tell me a little bit more about this workshop and what can participants walk away with at the end of it?
Thank you, Angela. So I was asked, actually, a client of mine asked me to put this workshop together initially, and then I've got very excited about it all because, oh my God, there's so much I can share this with so many people. There's so much good stuff in it, so many goodies. So, I mean, the workshop is really about you as a leader because change starts with you. So what I like to do at the beginning of the workshop is do some psychoeducation. And that's really allowing you to understand how your mind works, how your three minds work, actually. And then to really start tuning into that inner critic, that narrative about what are you telling yourself about who you are, what you're capable of, what you're not capable of. That alone is invaluable. I also give them a model that allows them to set themselves up for success on a daily basis, to really think about the routines they're looking at, to look after themselves with self-compassion, because again, that starts with self. And then we use the emotional change curve, which has been around since the 60s, so the Kubler-Ross emotional change curve. But what I do is share with them how their unconscious mind, them and their people, is driving their behaviours through that curve. So how can we accelerate people, again, by keeping them interested, informed and inspired, but from an unconscious mind point of view. So it really gives them more empathy. It gives them and their people more self-awareness, some self-regulation tools in there, and communication tools. Because, change only happens if we communicate correctly to ourselves and people.
Yeah. Okay. So who should be the leaders that are attending this participants? Like what type of role should they be in at the moment?
Where they've got a team where they're going through change. Now, whether it's a micro change or a macro change, but it's the leadership team involved in that. If you can get the team together and we're all learning this together. I mean, the feedback a month after the workshop, when I delivered it, they'll put in some practical tools. I share them in place with their teams. They were feeling more confident, more certain about the narrative they needed for themselves and their people. And I mean, epiphany and moments were happening because, the flexibility of the communication has to come from the leader to the people. The people don't have to be flexible to listen to you. So we have to get people to understand the narrative that they're sharing with their people. So senior leaders that are involved with the change, that they can then take these tools and share them with their people too. So it's the senior groups.
Okay. And is there anything else, Mary, that you think people need to know about this workshop or about emotional intelligence and working with you as a coach?
If you're serious about being a really successful, inspirational leader, you cannot do it without high emotional intelligence. You have to weave that into you as a human being, because you're a human being first and a leader second. So find somebody, me, another world-famous coach, to help you get that alignment that you need with your emotional intelligence, with your IQ, and you will be unstoppable.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you for your time today. So if anyone wants to find out more about these workshops that the Power Within can run and working with Coach Mary, please drop us a message. Thanks for your time, Mary. We'll speak to you soon.
Pleasure and a joy, Angela. Pleasure and joy.
Thank you. Speak to you soon.
Bye.